Welcome back, guys. Today we're going to do our NFL 2026 predictions. And I know it's been a minute, but with the NFL season coming up, I want to give you my takes on what I think is going to happen in this NFL season. Now, normally when I do these predictions, I focus on the playoffs, focus on the teams that I have in the postseason. But this time, since I didn't do individual team predictions this year, I'm going to give my thoughts on who I think is going to win each division, and then I'm going to go from there, do my playoff predictions. So let's jump right in. Starting off with the NFC East, I got the Philadelphia Eagles winning this division, and that's pretty much an easy choice. I do think the Eagles are still the most talented team in this division. They still have the most talented roster in this division, and their schedule is pretty favorable. Although pretty much the only team that could beat the Eagles is the Eagles. Second place, I have the Cowboys going 9-8. They are going to have a winning record, and I do think they're a wild card team at best. But they're late. I think late. They have a pretty difficult late season schedule where they take on Philly, Seattle. Which, granted, in those games they have a mini bye, Seattle bye week. Then it's the Rams, Jaguars, their division. And what I do think the Cowboys can do better. They'll probably be better, but is their good going to be good enough? Giants, I got them at 7-10. I think the Giants are one of the more overhyped teams because Jackson Dart was a good rookie. Scatterboo's coming back, but Malik Neighbors, his little knee progress from his last year's injury isn't coming along well enough. And the Commanders, I have 6-11. I don't really have much to say. I hope they do better than what they did last year when I gave them the division. NFC North, I know this was a bit unpopular for me, but I got the Chicago Bears taking it 13-4 because every time I hype up the Bears, they always find a way to let me down. And I will not be surprised if that'll be the case this season. For Detroit, I think they're going to be back to normal. I got them at 13-4 as well. But the only reason where I think for them, it came down to that last matchup they have, which I believe is the next to last week of the season. I might be wrong. But I have Detroit going back to 13-4. Green Bay is going to be 9-8, but I'm not really sold on. I know a lot of people are sold on Green Bay being a Super Bowl contender. I'm not. I'm not that much sold into it. That loss to the Bears in the playoff was brutal. That's because I think I said it last year. That is a loss teams don't recover from. And don't mention Micah Parsons not going to be ready for the. He's probably going to be out the first 6 weeks as he rehab his knee at his torn ACL. So they're going to be missing out. And the Vikings, last place 7-10. They're one of the harder teams to predict because the Vikings, as we all know, they could be. How can I say this? They could go. Their season can go in any direction. They could be really good, like the Bears, Detroit, but it could be pretty bad, like some teams I'm going to mention later on. But yeah, the Vikings were a hard team to predict. The NFC South, and this might be the first surprise. I have the New Orleans Saints taking the division. And if you're wondering, it did came down to that final week, that final matchup between the Saints and the Bucks, where I do have them splitting that division. Hopefully the Bucks, if they don't make the playoffs, Todd Bowles will be gone. Now for the Panthers, I got them at 7-10. And the only reason I got them at 7-10 because I am not a fan of their schedule. Their schedule is pretty rough. Taking on the NFC North, with a few North teams like Green Bay wanting revenge, and the AFC North, which I think is going to be probably one of the better divisions in football. And the Falcons, I got them at 5-12. They were another team that was hard to predict, but I'm not as high on the Falcons as the next person is. And finally, the NFC West. Oh boy, this division I believe is going to be the best division in football. It's not even close. In a tight battle, I got the Rams barely winning this division over the defending Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks. And yes, it did came down to that final week, that final matchup. 49ers 11-6. I think they're going to be a wild card team. They're a good team, but I don't think they're going to be good enough compared to the teams above it. And we don't talk about that fourth team. They're going to be one of the worst teams in the league. But let's move on to the AFC, and let me just say there's going to be a quite a bit of new teams making the playoffs this year from this particular conference. And starting off with the Buffalo Bills, I got them at 13-4. And the Patriots, I got them at 10-7. But here's the thing about the Patriots: when I privately did these predictions, I had the Patriots starting off very very slow, but they wound up picking things up as the season went on, and thus giving them a 10-7 record, putting them in the postseason. Jets, Dolphins, they're gonna be two of the worst. Well, I do think the Jets are gonna be improved. I don't think they're gonna be. I think they're probably gonna be. I think they're middle in the pack at best. And the Dolphins, they're in rebuild mode. NFC North, AFC North, excuse me. I got the Bengals barely winning this division 12-5 over the Baltimore Ravens, and it came down to that Week 17 Thursday night matchup where I do have both teams splitting. For the Bengals, everything is working out in their favor. They made improvements in the trenches. They got a very easy schedule. I feel like if they don't do nothing this year, I think the band got to break up. It's time to blow it up. So I think this is a pretty much a do or die season for the Bengals. Ravens 12-5. I think they're gonna be back to normal, especially on defense. I like what they did. I love the Jesse Minter hire. Steelers, y'all know the story there. They're gonna find a way to go 9-8, but I don't think, and they're gonna be very very close for that wild card spot. And the Browns, I did have them at a higher record than what it is, but given their quarterback situation is a bit unknown, they lost Myles Garrett. 3-14 is the best I could do for them. It's a rebuilding season for the Browns. But I do have them beating Pittsburgh and Baltimore this year, so that might count for something. For the AFC South, I got the Texans reclaiming the division at 10-7. And y'all know the story. The defense is gonna be elite. Jacksonville, I got them at 9-8. Because one thing I noticed about Jacksonville, every season, every time when they have a really good season and they put these expectations on themselves, they find a way to disappoint. They find a way to disappoint. And I think this season's going to be the case. And for the final two teams, the Colts and the Titans, there were just two pretty hard teams to predict because their season can go in any directions. But I do think the Titans are going to improve. I mean, they have to improve, right? And last but not least, the AFC West. I got the Kansas City Chiefs taking the division at 11-6. Chargers come right far behind at 9-8. Broncos also finishing 9-8, and the Raiders 5-12. Chiefs, I do think they're going to be back to normal. Mahomes is going to be back healthy. He's going to be playing Week 1. I guarantee that. Chargers, part of me, I don't know. I do think they're going to improve on offense, but it all depends on health and bad luck. And the Chargers is the definition of a bad luck pony. Broncos, I got them at 9-8. I do think they're one season that they had. I'm not going to call it a fluke, but a lot of things worked in their favor that season. And the Raiders, to be fair, I had them starting at 1-9, but I feel like they're going to be a team that's going to improve as the season goes on. So that's where I'm standing with that. And with that, let's just jump right into the playoffs. And now on to the playoffs. And before I make these predictions, let me just remind how the seedings worked. Bills wound up with the number 1 seed. 2 seed, I have the Bengals. 3 seeds, the Texans. 4th seeds, the Chiefs. 5th seeds, the Ravens. 6th seed is the Patriots. And the 7th seed is the Chargers. And for the NFC, the Rams wound up as the number 1 seed, with the Bears as the number 2, Eagles as the number 3, Saints as the number 4, Seahawks at the 5, the Lions at 6, and the 49ers at 7. So with that being said, let's just jump right into these predictions. And I'm going to do the AFC first. The Chiefs and the Ravens, between these two teams, this is going to be a good battle if they of course land there. Two teams that did not make the postseason last year, here they are. And but compared to the roster, like I said, I think the Chiefs are back. They're probably going to get the win here. And that brings us to Texans and Patriots. And y'all know these two teams played each other last year in the postseason. What do I think the same thing will happen? Probably. This will be one time I have the Patriots winning on the road. And Bengals Chargers, can Justin Herbert finally get a playoff win? The playoffs has been very, very difficult for him. He's 0-3. Kind of reminds me of another Cincinnati quarterback in Andy Dalton. But against the Bengals, I'm sorry, it's going to be 0-4. Now for the NFC, Saints Seahawks. Yes, the Saints made it as an 8-9 team, but I think Seattle is leagues better than them. Then we have the Eagles and Lions. And although I'm very tempted to give this to Detroit, it's not going to happen. I'm going to roll for the Eagles in that one. And Bears 49ers, this is why I have another upset. I think the 49ers could become the second 7 seed to win in the postseason. And now let's move on up to the divisional round where we got some elite matchups. First, we have the Chiefs, NFC first. Chiefs taking on the Bengals. I do think the Bengals are going to be a little better. They're going to have more confidence. I think they're going to take Kansas City down. Bills, Patriots. I got the Bills winning that matchup. We have a division matchup between the Rams and the 49ers. It's pretty much going to be the same thing as what happened last year to the 49ers. Eagles and Seahawks. This is the one I went back and forth on. Because if you don't know, Seattle, if the Eagles have one kryptonite this past decade, it's been the Seattle Seahawks. But do I think Seattle could win 2 playoff games on the road? I don't think so. I'm going to go with the Eagles to win this one. And this is going to set up a pretty good NFC and AFC championship games. Bills and Bengals. Do I think the Bills going to make it to the Super Bowl? This is where their luck runs out. I'm taking Cincinnati. And the Rams, I think the Rams are, this is the one time I think the Rams have a better roster than the Eagles. And since they're in win now mode, I got to go in that direction. So who do I think is going to win the Super? So my Super Bowl pick is going to be basically a rematch of Super Bowl 56 when the Bengals took on the Rams. And ironically, it's going to be played in Los Angeles. Go figure. So for this one, yeah, I'm going to pick the Rams. They're at home. They're doing everything they can to super team themselves to the top. And yeah, that's what I'm thinking right now. So bookmark this. Do whatever you can, viewers. I have the Los Angeles Rams winning the Super Bowl next year. So with that note, tell me what y'all think in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.